Okay, good Tavach, everyone. As we are broadcasting tonight from Greenwald Caterers, Itchemeyer Greenwald, and at the Doubletree in Somerset, and we are sponsored on this wonderful Guten Moed by A.B. Spry for nachas from the whole family, and by Michal Avram Chavin. Everyone should finish Shas with Gesund. And we are holding on Daf Nun Dalet Amud Beis, and we are holding by the bottom line, Amalei Rav Ashi L'Ravina. And we welcome Aaron Swade, we welcome Menachem Umansky, Yisrael Fisher, A.B. Spry, Shimon Deer, Irving Fishbaum from Aventura, Florida, Nachman Chapler, Mark Frankel, in the bunker, Philippe, Moshe Lehman, Ilya Shutman, Yitzi Muller, Chaim Braun, Yehuda from Yerushalayim, as he said, L'shana Abba Yerushalayim Abnuya, A. Barbach. Saba is joining me here at the Doubletree, and there he is, as you can see, Saba behind me, and I see Abba Steinhauser joining us, and here comes Shelley Zeitlin, and I hope our internet stays strong. We're relying on the Hilton Honors internet here. So far everybody hears me clearly, right? Yeah. Okay, and there's Shelley. Shelley is rearing to go. By the way, Shelley is on a no chametz diet. Dr. Block is joining us. Okay. All right, welcome everybody. Okay, so Amalei Rav Ashi L'Ravina, bottom line, Nun Dalet Amud Beis. And you know, the whole Yetzias Mitzrayim that we celebrate, that's by Yitziacha Esa'amah Mitzrayim Tavdun Esa'leikim Alahar Azeh, to learn Torah. So this is the whole purpose of Pesach, is to learn the Torah Kedosha. And of course, we already started counting Sfira, with tonight being the second day of Sfira. And of course, Sfira is the countdown that shows us the passion of Klal Yisrael for Torah. And David Helfgott is just joining us on Zoom phone, as we are not with Kol HaLashon as yet. We'll, of course, send it to Kol HaLashon later, but I don't have an extra phone here for Kol HaLashon. So the Gemara tells us, Amalei Rav Ashi L'Ravina, Behema Tmeya, a Talmudic animal like a cow, a donkey, a horse, a camel, B'tchilas hektish Isa only has initial hektish. Be'emtza hektish lesa, there's no middle hektish. There is. I could dedicate a cow to. I could dedicate a camel to Beta Kabayis, to temple maintenance, and then I could redeem it with a donkey. So there's also emtza hektish with Behemoth Tameya. Amalei, he says you're right. There is emtza hektish, but lefisha eina b'soif hektish. There's no final hektish. Now, what this means is that by an animal that's tar, there's final hektish because it ends up on it ends up on the mizbeach. So that's final hektish by the mizbeach. By Beta Kabayis. But a Talmudic animal, it doesn't go on the Mizbeach, and the Talmudic animal doesn't go into the binyan in the base of Mikdash. So by Beta Kabayis, by temple maintenance, it also doesn't have soif hektish. So the Gemara says, let's see it inside. Amalei Rav Achmed divti Ravina be'emtze hektish miya isa. But there is a middle hektish, right? Because you could dedicate a donkey and then pass the kedusha onto a camel. So it does have middle hektish. So therefore, why do we say that if it's in the middle, if it's not initial hektish, you don't have to add a fifth when you redeem it? You should add a fifth even if you're redeeming middle hektish. Amalei, so he says harihuk is soif hektish, because we say that the middle hektish of a behemoth tameya is like soif hektish, is like the last stage of hektish. Ma soif hektish, just like this last stage of hektish. Einay moisiv chaimish, there's no fifth. Because in the last stage, you don't redeem it. You put it on the mizbeach, or you build it into the base of Migdash, if it's better kabayis. Af emtze hektish, so also the middle stage, ain't a moisiv chaimish, you don't add a fifth. So now the Gemara asks, Amalei Rav Zutra B'rei Rav Mori L'Ravina, my chazis the medamas leilas soif hektish. Why do you compare emtze hektish to the last stage of hektish where there's no fifth? Nedamya l'tchilas hektish, you should instead compare it to initial hektish, where you do add a fifth. So then emtze hektish, the middle stage, you should also add a fifth. Amalei. It's more logical to compare it to soif hektish. Why? Shekain nitfas menitfas. You learn that which is passed over to that which is passed over. Middle hektish went from the initial hektish of the camel to the donkey. And soif hektish goes from something to something, right? From the donkey to, let's say, a horse. Or soif hektish, in the case of a kosher animal, it goes on to the mizbeach, right? And over there, by soif hektish, when it goes on to the mizbeach or goes into the walls of hektish, there's no fifth. So the Gemara says, Adarabba, l'tchilas hektish avalei l'dmuya. You should compare it to the initial thing that's sanctified. Shekain dover sheyesh acharav kedusha. We compare middle hektish to something that has after it kedusha. Midavar sheyesh acharav kedusha, from the first hektish that there could be after it kedusha. Soif hektish, there's nothing that comes after it. It's put on the mizbeach. It's built into the wall. Says the Gemara, I'll tell you why middle hektish you don't have to add a fifth. As the Gemara tells us, we see that we're welcoming in over here a lot of people that just joined us. Michal just joined us. Eddie Chazan just joined us, all the way from Mexico City. At least that's where he says he is. Yitzi Muller is joining us. I see Mark Frankel is having a lot of trouble. He's there. Oh, he changed locations. He's changed locations. He came out of the bunker. They let him get out. Kamel Zachter is joining us. Says the Gemara, I'll tell you why middle hektish you don't have to add a fifth. Kida Amarava, like it says by the carbon tamid, it says a hey ayidiyah ha oila rishayna. It's the carbon tamid has to be the first carbon of the day. Hachanami hat tmeya rishayna. We learn out from hat tmeya that when do you add a fifth? Only tmeya rishayna, only the first stage. When you consecrate a camel, then when you redeem it, you have to add a fifth. But if you pass the camel onto a donkey, the middle stage, you don't have to add a fifth. Tani Kabasi Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. We have a brisa like Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi that we don't add a fifth on secondary hektish. Para zu takas para shel hektish. If, let's say, Dr. Block says, this cow, I am redeeming another cow of hektish, I'm redeeming this cow of hektish, or talas zu takas talas shel hektish, this cloak, instead of this cloak of hektish, hekdeshoi podi. Now, the din by hektish is, it's an interesting din by hektish, that you could redeem hektish for less than the value. That's the way it works. But where Dr. Block doesn't specify, he just says this cow instead of this cow of hektish, this talus instead of this talus of hektish, Hekdeshei Podi, it's a good redemption. And as we welcome in Yitzi Fuchs, all dressed up for Yom Tov, and Yeshua Shmuel Eisenberg, as we already have 26 Zoomers making this a very good and moyed indeed, as we broadcast from the Hilton Doubletree in Somerset, New Jersey, the Greenwald Caterers program. But wherever I go, I take you with me. And I'm glad to be learning Torah with you. So if Dr. Block says this cow instead of this cow of Hekdesh, or this talus instead of this talus of Hekdesh, Hekdeshei Podi, it's redeemed. V'yad Hekdesh al Elyoina. And Hekdesh has the upper hand. That means if the cow that he's exchanging it with, the cow of Hekdesh was worth $1,000, and the cow that he gives is only $800, he has to add $200. However, if the cow that he gives is $1,200, the Hekdesh keeps the excess $200. So the Hekdesh is Yoda El Elyoina. However, if he says Talis zu b'chamesh shloim tachas talis shel Hekdesh, if he says this talis worth 5 sela is instead of the talis of Hekdesh, Hekdeshei Podi, the Hekdesh is redeemed. If the Hekdesh is worth more than 5, he gets it for the talis of 5. However, if the talus is only worth 3 and he says 5, he has to be mashlim the extra 2. Al hekdesh rishon, this is the raya to Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Al hekdesh rishon moisef chaimish. On first stage hekdesh, you have to add a 5th when you redeem it. Al hekdesh sheni, when it's second generation, ain moisef chaimish. You don't have to add a 5th. Now the Mishnah tells us ha'ino arba kesef. We said it's considered to be defrauding the customer or the seller if it's 4 kesef out of a seller, meaning 1/24. Hatayna shtei kesef. We know that there's a din of moida b'mixes. If I ask Shelley, the owe me $1,000, and he admits to 500, so he has to swear about the rest. That's the din of moida b'mixes hatayna yeshav. The minimum that necessitates a shvua is where I demand from Shelley a minimum of 2 silver pieces to ma'ah v'ha'odah shav a pruta, and he has to admit to at least owing me a pruta. Chamesh pruta saying there are 5 things which the amount it mandated is a minimum of a pruta. Ha'odah shav a pruta, what we just said, that Shelley is not going to be chayiv v'shvua unless he admits to a pruta. V'isha miskadeshes b'shav a pruta, a woman could be betrothed with a value of a pruta. V'anena b'shav a pruta min a hekdesh, and if somebody misappropriates hekdesh and benefits from an item of hekdesh unwittingly, the worth of a pruta, mal, he commits mila, he has to bring an ashim milas, he has to pay a 5th. V'amoitzi shav a pruta, and if you find something of a value of a pruta, chayiv lahachris, you have to announce it. V'agoizel eskaver shav a pruta, and if Eddie Chazan steals from me a shav a pruta and he denies it, takes an oath, and then confesses menishbalai, then he has to travel all the way to Madai to return my pruta. Yalechenu achrav afilu l'madai, but that's only the minimum of a pruta. Says the Gemara, Tanina Chadazim, that we already learned the amount of fraud once before in the beginning of the parak. Fraud is considered 4 pieces of silver out of 24, right? We said which we said was a 6th, 4 out of 24, which is a 6th. Says the Gemara, you're right. We already taught that. But that Taina Shtei Kesef, we needed to teach that Shelley only swears by Moida B'Mixas if my claim is at least a minimum of 2 Kesef, V'ahidah Shavapruta, and his admission is at least a Shavapruta. It's Trichali. That's what's needed. Says the Gemara, that also we learned. Hanami Tanina. This is also covered before in a Mishnah in Kedushin. Shvuas HaDayanim, the oath that's imposed by the Dayanim, Hatayna Shtei Kesef, there has to be I have to make a minimum claim of 2 pieces of silver, v'haidah, and Shelley's moedik b'mixus has to be at least a shava pruta. So the Gemara says, Seifa it's stricha. The Chiddush is in the latter part of the Mishnah. Seifa it's stricha. The Chiddush is in the latter part of the Mishnah. Diktani chamesh pruta saying, and it tells us the 5 things that are a minimum of a pruta. Chamesh pruta saying, says the Gemara, you left one out. V'lisnei nami ha'inoah pruta, that is only fraud if it's the amount of a pruta. Amarav Kahana Zoisei Meres Eino Ino leprutais. There's no Ino by a pruta. The minimum of Ino is silver. Says Levi Yesh Ino leprutais. Levi says there's Ino even amount of a pruta. And indeed, when Levi has a list of those things that the minimum are a pruta, Levi taka counts Ino. V'chein Tani Levi b'masnise in his brisa. Chamesh pruta saying there are 5 prutas. Ha'ina pruta, overcharging is a pruta, minimum of a pruta. V'aida pruta, Shelley, in order to be chayiv for moedik b'mixus, has to at least admit to a pruta. V'kiddusha isha b'pruta, and the minimum amount to be mekadosh an isha with is a pruta. V'gezel b'pruta, the minimum amount of theft that you would have to return to Madai is a pruta. V'yeshivas hadayanim bepruta, and we don't convene a bezdin for less than a pruta. Says the Gemara, Tana Didan, my time aloy ketani yeshivas hadayanim. Why doesn't our Tana say that we don't convene a bezdin for less than a pruta? Says the Gemara, Tana legezel. It says already theft, so we know it's not considered theft for less than a pruta. So then there would be no reason to convene a bezdin. Says the Gemara, mi like Tani Gezel v'Tani Aveda. Doesn't it say Gezel is a minimum of a pruta and also a lost article? So we see, isn't that the same thing? Because that's the reason why you have to announce it if it's only a pruta, because less than that is not considered Gezel. Says the Gemara, Hanachit Strichalei. There it has to say both. Gezel, that's coming to tell you that for less than a pruta, you don't have to go, Eddie doesn't have to go all the way to Madai. And he takes an oath and then confesses, and Aveda, a lost article, is telling me that in the event that Mark finds a lost article that was initially worth the pruta, and then before he had time to announce it, it depreciated to less than a pruta, he still has to make an announcement, as the Gemara tells us. Let's see it inside. In the case of Aveda, Hamoitze Aveda Shava Pruta, if Mark finds an Aveda that's worth a pruta, and then Chayiv Lahachris, he has to announce it, the Afal Gav Dezol, even though it depreciates and is less than a pruta. As we welcome in Mo Kushner joining us, and for our 27th Zoomer of the evening, good night, and we have David Gestetner joining us over here, and Nathan Langner joining us on YouTube, David Helfgott on Kalaloshin, and Saba right here with me in the room over here to let everybody know that I'm not in room 208. And there's Saba saying hello to everybody.
Hi guys.
Now,
Hi Saba, must you have a chaperone?
says the Gemara, the Levi, my time Tani Aveda. Why doesn't he say that a lost article is a pruta? Says Tani Legezel. It says theft. So obviously, since theft is with a pruta, so anything that's a pruta you have to announce and you can't keep it. Says Mila Tani Gezel Tani Yeshivas Hadayanim. Well, he says Gezel, and he also says convening of a court. Says the Gemara, Yeshivas Hadayanim Itzrichalei, it needs to say convening in a court, La Fuke Mid Rav Katina. That's to exclude the opinion of Rav Katina. Dam Rav Katina, Bezdin is Skokin, Afilu Lapachas Mishava Pruta. A Bezdin has to convene even less than a Shava Pruta. Says the Gemara, Levi, so therefore Levi says, no, Bezdin convenes only for a Shava Pruta. Why doesn't Levi say Hektish? that is mila only with the amount of a pruta. V'levi my time aloi ketani hektish. So he'll say this list bechulin kamairi is only talking about chulin. Bekachim loy kamairi. It's not talking about kachim. Elatani didon de kamairi bekachim nisnei meiser bepruta. Why doesn't it say the din of meiser that the minimum by meiser the minimum that you're allowed to redeem of meiser is only the amount of a pruta? Says the Gemara, you know why he doesn't list meiser? Because he holds Commander Amr ein bechumshay pruta. He says that even if it's more than a pruta, even if it's payers that are worth 3 prutas, if there isn't the 5th that you have to add as a surcharge isn't worth a pruta, then you cannot redeem the meiser. So there, the share by meiser is not a pruta; it's much more than a pruta. It has to be that the 5th equals a pruta. Says the Gemara. So then that's another chaimish, and that is that that's another pruta, that the 5th of meiser has to be a pruta. V'lisnei chaimish meiser bepruta. So that he says, you know what? It's only talking about principles. It's not talking about 5ths. Bekarna kamari, it's only talking about principles. Bechaimish loy kamari, it's not talking about 5ths. If you're just joining us now, as we are 27 strong over here, we are holding 3 lines from the bottom, just getting underway on a Motzi Yom Tov Chalamoid Pesach marathon. And by the way, tomorrow night shir is 8:30. Just remember, tomorrow night shir is 8:30. We will see. I'm not sure yet. It depends on my date tomorrow. I'm not sure if we're going to learn 1 blot or 2 blot tomorrow night. It depends if I have ample time to prepare. I don't know how my day is going to develop, but it would be nice if tomorrow night we could learn 2 blot. That's the only time we could get really ahead, so that on a Motzi Yom Tov of Achron, we don't have to learn 3 blot. So Gufa, Amar Rav Katina, Bezdin niskakin afilu lepachas mishava pruta. Rav Katina holds that Bezdin convenes even for less than a pruta. Masiv Rava, so Rava asks, it says in the pasuk, ve'es asher chota min hakodesh yishalim, and that which you sinned from the kodesh you have to pay. And we learn out from that l'rabbis pachas mishava pruta, that when you're dealing with, since it says in the pasuk es, and Rashi says whenever it says es or gam, it's a riboy. It comes to include that you have to even return less than a shava pruta to hektish. The Gemara Darshans l'kodesh in only for kodesh aval lehed yitlai. So then why would they convene a bezdin of less than a shava pruta in the event that you don't have to return it? If Rav Katina said something, he said as follows: Amar Rav Katina, im huskatu bezdin l'shava pruta. If bezdin already convened for the amount of a pruta, and then in their deliberations they see that it's less than a pruta, gaimir nafilu l'pachas mishava pruta. They conclude the verdict even if it's less than a shava pruta. Tchilas hadin ba'inam pruta. The initial din needs a pruta. Gemar din, but the conclusion of the din loy ba'inam pruta. And Rabbi Isa, I just want to let you know that we have the zechiyah of having joining us right now, Barry Cement. And I did speak to him before Pesach, and he is, upbeat, and he said he probably will have to be there about another month, but he was by David Adres for the Sidarim, and he was chipper and optimistic. Barry, the entire shir as one, wishes you a refuah shalema b'sei shaycha Yisrael, and wishes that you should get home. I'm telling you, I'm getting hand waves and up signals, and Mark is doing somersaults. I'm telling you, everybody is really very excited for you that you should get better and get back to normal living. And we are now starting the new Mishnah on this wonderful evening of Chol Hamoed, Chamisha Chumshinheim. There are 5/5. Eluheim. Ha'eichel Truma, if somebody, like Eddie, is in Mexico City and gets confused, and he eats Truma, he's not a Kayan, and he eats Truma, or Trumas Meiser, that's the Truma that has to be given from the Meiser of the Levi, or even Trumas Meiser Shel Demai, or if it's Trumas Meiser of Demai, or V'achala V'abikurim, or Chala, or the first fruits, Meiser Chaimish, he has to pay it back and add a 5th. That's the first 5th. V'apoida Neter Ravai Meiser Sheni, Neter Ravai is the crops of the 4th year of fruit trees. The first 3 years is Arla, the 4th year has to be eaten in Yerushalayim like Meiser Sheni, and has to be redeemed because they're not carrying up all the fruit to Eretz Yisrael. Or Meiser Sheni Shalai, or you redeem your Meiser Sheni, the second tithe in the first, second, 4th, and 5th year of the Shemitah cycle. Meiser Chaimish, you have to add a 5th. Hapoides Hekdesha, if you redeem your own hektish, there's a surcharge, Meiser Chaimish. Hanene Shava Pruta Min Hektish, if you benefit the value of Pruta of hektish, committing trespass, Meiser Chaimish, you have to pay the principal plus a 5th. And Va'gaizel Eskaver Shava Pruta, and if you steal from your friend a Shava Pruta and Vinishbalai, and you take an oath and then you confess, you have to, Meiser Chaimish, you have to give back the principal plus a 5th, plus bring a asham, a guilt offering. So now, the Gemara wonders, we know that if you eat Trumas Meiser, you have to pay a 5th. But if you eat Trumas Meiser of Demai, which is only D'Rabbanan, because D'Oraisa, Roiv Amaratzim Ma'asernei. So that means that even if you eat Trumas Meiser of Demai, you have to add a 5th. Amarava Kasha Leila Rebbe Lazar, it bothered Rebbe Lazar. Trumas Meiser Shel Demai. If Eddie eats Trumas Meiser of Demai, v'chia asu chachamim chizik l'devrayim kishel Torah, did they make their words as strict as the words of Torah? Says Gemara, yes, this is going like Rameir, who even if it's the Rabbanan, by a get, the get is invalidated and the child is a mamzer. I'm Rav Nachman, I'm a Shmuel, I'm Ani Rameiri. It's going like Rameir. They made their takanas as strong as the Torah. The Tanya, maybe get Mibdin Siyam. If Chatzkel divorces his wife Shprinza, and Chatzkel is in the diaspora, and he sends the get with Shelley, so the din is Shelley, when he delivers the get, is supposed to say B'fanei nichta, b'fanei nechta. Before me it was written, before me it was signed, because we're worried. One reason is we're worried that in the diaspora they're not baki l'shma, that it has to be written especially for her sake, and therefore he has to say in front of me it was written, in front of me it was signed. But Shelley brought the get to Shprinza, and he didn't say the formula. And then Shprinza married Shmuel. So the din is, if she has a child, Yoitzi, she has to leave him because she got divorced illegally, because Shelley didn't say the formula. And since she's really a married woman, Vavlad Mamza Divrei Rameir. So Rameir says that even though the only flaw was something rabbinical, the child is considered a mamzer, because it makes it like a deraisa. The Chachamim ain't Avlad Mamzer. The get is really a good get. Kate said, Yasa, what should be done if Shelley flubbed it and gave the get without saying the formula? Yitlanna mimena, you should take it from her, and give it to her again, b'fnei shmayim, and he corrects it, says the Gemara. So Rav Meir says that the Chachamim made their dinim as strong as a deraisa. Because he didn't say the formula, which is only a shash, to make sure that it was written Lishma Yoitzi Vavlan Mamzer. Should we throw the book at them and say that the child is a Mamzer because she's an Ashes Ish? Says Gemara in Rameh Tamei. Rameh goes according to his reasoning. Damar Rav Amnuna Mishmei De'ula. Omer Hoyer Rameh Kol HaMishanim Matpei Shetavu Chacham Megidin. Whoever changes from the formula that the Chacham made again, Yaitziv Avalad Mamzer. That's why we say that Kol Sheini Yodeh B'Tiv Gittin V'Kedushin Lo Yeh Eisik Ban, because making a get is playing with fire. If you change the formula, you could cause a mamzerim. Remember that Rabbi Fran said, not Rabbi Fran, Rabbi Wine said that when he made his first get, he told his Rebbe, Reb Kreisworth, that it's not for him. He says he couldn't sleep the whole night before because he realized the ramifications. So Reb Kreisworth said to him, then who should do Gittin? People that could sleep? We want people that can't sleep. We want people that take it very seriously. Says the Gemara Vaita, Master Reb Sheshes is Rameir Machmir by a Drabanan just like by a Deraisa. Master Reb Sheshes Mechalanin Oisai Kesef al Kesef. You could redeem Ma'aser Sheni, silver upon silver, Nechoshes al Nechoshes, copper on copper, Kesef al Nechoshes, silver onto copper, Unechoshes al Aperis, and copper onto fruit. Now, that means he holds that you could even put it back from the money onto fruit, but since you already redeemed it, this is the way Ritva learns, since you already redeemed it to make the load lighter, so you have to put it back on money before you go up. The Chachamim and the Chachamim say, no, you don't have to. If it's on the fruit and you want to bring the actual fruit up to Yerushalayim, you can. You could even bring the Paris and bring them up to Yerushalayim. Now, this teaching that he allows silver to be redeemed on silver and even silver to be redeemed on copper, this teaching is talking about Ma'aser Sheni Shel Demai. So here we find that Reb Meir is Mekel and says you could even put silver on copper, even though that's downgrading it because copper could rust, right? But you could downgrade it because it's only Ma'aser Sheni Shel Demai. Yet, by regular Ma'aser, says the Gemara, can you put silver onto copper? Here we have a problem. Seller shel Ma'aser Sheni v'shel Chulin. If you have a coin, a whole seller of Ma'aser Sheni, well, this happened to Irving in Aventura, right? He had a coin, a seller of Ma'aser Sheni, and next to it he had a seller of Chulin, Shenisarvu, and they got mixed up. So now he doesn't know which is the coin that's Ma'aser Sheni that has to be taken up to Yerushalayim and which one he could use in Aventura. There's a lot of rides. He wants to buy for his grandchildren rides. So he has to know which coin. So he can't just bring another seller and say whichever one should be redeemed onto the seller. Because you can't do silver on silver. That's not a redemption. Silver on silver is not a redemption. So maybe he brings beselamois. He brings a seller of copper pieces. V'aymer kol makom sheyeshna seller shel Ma'aser Sheni, whichever one is the silver coin of Ma'aser Sheni, mechuleles almois halalu, should be redeemed onto these copper. And then he picks the nicer one of the silver sellers, or Bayres HaYafa B'hem, he picks the nicer one of the silver sellers, or Mechalel Yaleh, and passes it back from the copper onto the nicer one of silver, and now he has a silver one to bring up to Eretz Yisrael. Now, normally, we don't allow silver to be put on copper because it could rust. We only allow silver to go onto copper, only under duress, Loishi Yikayim Kain, not that it should stay that way, Ela Shechayzer Mechalal and Ala Kesef, that we should then put it back on the better silver coin. So Kitani Miha, that if it's Meiser Sheni Doraisa, Mechalal and Medoichik, you could only put it onto copper under duress, Medoichik in, Shalai Medoichik Loi. But by Meiser Sheni Shel Demai, Rameya says you could put kesef on the chayshes. So you see, he doesn't make a chizik l'devrayim kishel Torah. So why do you say the Rameya says that you have to give a fifth on Meiser Sheni Shel Demai, that you eat like regular Meiser Sheni? Here you see that he doesn't make a chizik l'devrayim kishel Torah. We're just going to pause a moment over here to change the channel on